Well, hello, and welcome to an episode of What Sticks with Sid. So, for those of you who have been following along, it has been a minute, and I really had to push myself to just sit down and focus on this today and record because it has been swirling around me. I've been really wanting to pick it back up, but man, February has been the busiest month. I keep saying February was so busy, but we're still in February. We are in the last week of February. And between Valentine's Day and I did a little cousin craft Galentines at my house, I hosted that. It was just kind of back to back. We have several birthdays in both sides of the family over this month, and then also we had a visit from some out-of-state family and attended a funeral. So we have just been kind of go this month, and then things are like the dust is kind of settling this week for us. So I want to just jump right into where my headspace is today, because when I say this, like sitting down and recording has been swirling around me, it has honestly been so distracting. This is week 4. So I'm recording on a Wednesday, and that's normally when I record, but it has been 4 weeks probably to the date since my last recording. And I had kind of set out this like timeline in my head of recording once a week. I'm like, that's not so bad. I can carve out time. I want to share kind of like the inner workings of what I've been going through, like in my personal life, and the thought process behind it all, because this is the kind of stuff I wish I heard from some of the content that I consume. I wish I heard like the nitty gritty of like the day-to-day of like what it really takes to get started, or maybe those like big aspirations that weren't met or that had to get left behind kind of stuff, right? So my hopes in sharing all of this is just to let people know that it is not as easy as it looks. But it also like is so normal to be going through, I believe, what I'm going through, and I keep having to tell myself and remind myself about that. So let's give you a little bit of insight and background. So when I say it's been 4 weeks, so I recorded and I've been just kind of like coming in. I come into an office and I work 3 days a week right now. It's kind of my schedule. And I'm in this like quiet office. I have access to a quiet back room that I can lock the door and just have peace and quiet and record whenever I want. And I have the flexibility to do so. However, I feel like it's really hard to say yes to this and say no to other things. So right now, what I'm saying no to is hours working, which right now at this point with my schedule, needing to have something consistent and flexible, because I have my 2 girls. You guys have probably heard me mention this a few times, but I have 2 of my girls. I have 3 of them, but 2 of them I have twice a week with me, and that's because preschool, drop-off, pickup, daycare are just crazy on those days. So I just have them with me now, and then I come into an office 3 days a week, and then I also do a lot of other pursuits on the side. Like I said, it's just extremely, like my situation that I am in right now is extremely flexible. So I have to kind of hunker down and be like, okay, I want to log hours. I want to pursue this or that. Anywho, when it comes to the podcast, the flexibility, it's so flexible that it's so hard, because I know what I have to say no to is like those hours of like work hours, right? And I've tried getting up early, I've tried staying up late, but like with my kids' ages, I have 6 to a 1-year-old. So I have 6, 4, and 1. And sleep is just not a thing we're getting right now at our house. And also like with me working, my husband's obviously working, and then we have a kindergartner, preschooler, and daycare. So we operate off 3 schedules right now. So this is not an ideal time for me to start something like this, right? However, I've mentioned that this is something that has been in the works for years. I've thought and contemplated. I started about a year ago, in January, recording, and then I like let it fall off. So I was feeling that feeling again of like, oh my gosh, it's been 4 weeks. And I'm like, okay, get the timeline out of your head. Like, why do I have to be recording weekly? Could it be a monthly thing? like just kind of playing around with these fused thoughts, like back to that beautiful hexaflex. Oh, I think I might be able to grab that. But that beautiful hexaflex that we talked about at the end of last episode. Oh shoot, it's not in here. But I am going to recreate that graphic. I started it, and because the only one I can find online, it's a therapy hexaflex that I use with my therapist, if you didn't catch last episode, and I go through it. It's like a diagram, and it basically talks about like psychological inflexibility and versus being psychologically flexible with like your mindset and things. And one of the categories is fused thoughts versus diffused thoughts is what I'm referencing. And so I'm realizing like, okay, so that's a fused thought of like, I have to record weekly. And so I'm like, just kind of like playing around with like, what is holding me back? Like, why do I keep thinking about it and talking about it, but not pursuing it? And so this morning I got really inspired by, and let's just start with the sticky notes. This will lead me into it. I was listening to an interview on Call Her Daddy podcast with Hilary Duff. She is making a comeback. I grew up watching Hilary Duff. I love her. I watched the Netflix series Younger, which features her. She's like one of the main characters, and she is amazing in that. I just watched it this year, but apparently I think it was filmed a few years ago now. But it was so great. I feel like she was reintegrated back into my life. I just like love her. But anyway, she's doing an interview, and she starts to get asked about her divorce. She had a divorce when she had a 2-year-old. It was her first marriage, and she got married young, or met him young. I think she was like, said she was like 19, got married at 22, something around that age. And, but she started to talk about her divorce. And so like the context of the question is about divorce. However, what I pulled from it applies to like everyday life. And so this is my sticky note, is you also matter. And she's starting to talk about how like when you have kids, you are like all consumed by them, right? And your guilt becomes just so thick with everything that everything becomes like, when you make decisions, and like now this is me applying like my life and like my thought process on top of what she said. So she does say like, you start to just say everything's for the family, or like, and so like with my filters and like with this podcast, and why this has been so tough for me is because I get so deep and articulate with things, and I'm such like a deep thinker that I'm like, if I'm saying no to working for even if it's an hour, I am saying no to money, which supports my family, which is a huge value of mine, is like my family unit, right? However, she starts to talk about like by design, like being a mother, like when we're breastfeeding, and like we are so consumed by our children that like everything becomes for your family before like it becomes about you. And so the sticky note is you also matter, because she's like, I had to remind myself that going through the divorce, and I had to like fight for myself too. And then the full circle of it all, and like Alex Cooper, the Call Her Daddy interviewer, she was just like, that's awesome, because then you, in turn, you're showing your kids that they can choose themselves too. And that like, and that's like a huge lesson, is like, you can't forget about yourself. And even when you're going through something like a divorce and how hard that is, and you want to make it about the kids, it's like, she was basically saying like, I had to pursue and go through the divorce because I was choosing myself and like my needs, even though like I knew it was going to affect my children. And so that ultimately, like, that was my catalyst. That was like my inspiration for just sitting down and recording today, because I have let so many little inner critics and voices of people in my life dictate whether or not I'm recording. And I really hesitate with this. Like when you're dreaming about something, or when you're really wanting to do something and you share it with those that are close to you, everyone applies their own filters from their own life and their own experience, and like even their past, or like where they want to go, their future, they apply it to you. And I find this really hard, because like no one is you and knows exactly your experience, has exactly like your history that has gotten you, and like has your same wounds and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so when you take advice, sometimes when you really care about those people or you like really value their opinions, you tend to take it on like a deeper level, and it becomes like this inner critic voice is what I'm referencing, like with the inner critic. And like through therapy and things, sometimes my therapist will be like, whose voice do you hear when like that reoccurring thought happens? And sometimes it will be clear as day and be like, oh, that's this person, they said that this one time and I've applied it to so many different things in my life, right? And so that leads me to my next sticky note, is to look where you're driving. This actually goes really seamlessly in with the last one of you also matter, because this is a lesson I actually taught my girls this week, and it was so cute. I was writing down my sticky notes and I'm like, oh my gosh, this would actually be really good, because when I was doing branding, a big conversation I had to have with people all the time to find like their authentic aesthetic was like, get everyone else's website, everyone else's like social. Yes, you can be inspired by others, but don't try to copy and paste others, because you will never be able to formulate something true to your heart if you're constantly like looking to your left or to your right. And so that's where the sticky note of look where you're driving is. My girls were doing a craft, and Cora, my oldest, just kept being like, oh, mommy, yours is like so much better than mine, or oh, I can't draw like you. And I always have the conversation of, mommy's had a lot of practice, and like you actually give me a lot of practice, because mommy doesn't find time to color on my own. I color when I'm with you. So the more I color, the better I get, right? Is a common conversation. But then I remembered this analogy that I had with my branding clients all the time, is like, think about driving in a car. You need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be looking at who's in the right lane and who's at the left lane, because you never know what they're going to do. But if you're, and I had this whole analogy with my kids. I had them sit with me, like we're in a pretend car. And I said, okay, pretend like mommy's driving, because they're always in the car seats in the back. And I'm like, okay, if mommy's driving, I have to look where I'm going, right? And if I don't look where I'm going, like what will happen if I'm stuck looking to my left and I'm looking at the car to my left? And this is an analogy of comparison. What will happen with mommy? And they instantly were like, you'll crash, you'll have an accident, like you could hit something, like, and I'm like, yes, okay. So what if mommy is looking to my right and paying attention to like something that's on the side of the road, and I'm just staring at it, but I'm still driving forward? What happens to mommy? And they're both like, you crash, you crash. And it's so true. And I love that analogy, because we're driving every single day, most of us. And you have to look where you're going and the destination of your car. And yes, you do have to be aware of your surroundings, because it can dictate where you're going, right? Like if someone cuts you off or whatever, but you're never locked in completely one way or the other. And like, that's what I would always bring up with clients that were like, they would send me a website, or they would send me a specific account, and they're like, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me what you love about it. Like what's inspiring you, because it's going to be bits and pieces. It's not going to be 100% of everything, because everyone is different. And a lot of influencers or people who have a big following, it's because they have found something authentic that they can easily record on. They can easily talk about, like even when I show people this podcast, I get a lot of comments of, how do you talk for an hour? And I'm like, I have to cut myself off, because I get in a groove and I get so passionate, and I've found something that I can do naturally. However, like the setup is very important, because I've tried this in the past, but I need like these little sticky notes do so much for me, and they guide me and they give me little reminders. And then yeah, so I found a groove that works well for me. However, if I didn't have these sticky notes and I was just like, in the past when I was recording, I was just trying to just talk, it worked, but this feels better to me, and it like ignites that passion feeling in me, because I'm staying true to who I am and things I naturally do anyways. I constantly am having sticky notes places. I hear these like little clips, or I think everyone, when we're listening to a podcast, like the one from Call Her Daddy this morning, I heard that. And even though it was in the context of divorce, I got something huge out of it, because it was that thing that stuck, and that's why it landed on a sticky note, is because I was just like, oh my gosh, like you do also matter. Like as a mother, we are so consumed by our children, and like it is so confusing as a mom to incorporate like what lights us up. And I'm sure you have heard, like, you can be a better mother when you are listening to those pings and you are listening to those little things that are calling you and that you want to pursue. Like on days that I record, I come home so giddy, and my husband even notices. He can tell that I have a good day. And so my goal is to just, I'm gonna keep recording, and yes, it's gonna eat into my work, and that's been really hard for me to swallow. However, the more consistent I am, I know it's not gonna take me as long. And I always am like, oh, it's just an hour to record, but then you have to upload. You have to, one day I will get to editing. Right now I'm just strictly uploading, but like, and then I've been trying to pursue correlating my conversations with Instagram. And that has been actually another thing I wanted to talk on, that I wanted to just like kind of vocalize what's been holding me back from recording, like kind of like in the subconscious, that I've been trying to bring to the conscious and be like, why is that so hard? And just kind of question and like massage it and be like, okay, like what's an alternative? Like how can I change this? Is that something I really want to do, because I'm such a visual person. I have clairvoyancy as one of my gifts, is like the gift of sight. And I love visuals. I feel like they're so empowering, and I feel like you can talk about something, but then when you see the correlated quote or the correlated clip, like the isolated clip of like that Call Her Daddy interview with Hilary Duff, you see the actual people and you can get inspired in a different form. And I really want to, on my Instagram page, I want to post the clips that I reference, or the things that stick. Like I want to show you in a visual form, like even the cousin Valentine's Day craft. Like I have a few things that I did that I was just like, this was so easy and I want to share this. Like I laid down I was like, how do I had the party, let me backpedal a little bit. I had the party in our unfinished basement, which we've had a few parties. We've got it a little bit organized down there, to the point where it's now a space that our kids can play and be, and all their extra toys have landed, and it's been so fun. And for the Valentine's Day party, I'm like, how do I make this look like pink and fun and Valentine's Day without, like, I don't want to buy all this new decor. Like, so I always am trying to think, what do I have already that I can use? And I got this idea to lay down wrapping paper, because I have plenty of pink wrapping paper. I have 7 nieces on my side. That's including my 3. So I have 4 nieces on my side of the family. Pink is everywhere, purple, those fun colors, which is in line with Valentine's Day. So I went and grabbed some wrapping paper. I laid it down and I created like a huge, like probably 5.5, 6 foot heart. And I had to tape them together, but I had so much fun, and I basically taped 3 rolls the length that I wanted, like unraveled of the paper, and then I folded it in half and sketched out the half of a heart, and I did it very lightly so it wouldn't have a fold in the middle, and then I cut it, and it was so cool. And my husband Mitch helped me hang it, and it was just like the centerpiece. And then I also did a hula hoop and I put streamers on it so it looked like a chandelier, and we hung that, and that was really fun. And yes, it took me a little time to do that, but it's like, I'm not gonna go buy a chandelier, right? And now they're just up and they're downstairs and they're happy and vibrant and fun. And I always like to create things that can last past just the party. I like it to have like multi-purpose, multi-dimensional meaning. And so those things are still downstairs. And like, I want to give visuals, because yes, me talking about it is really cool, but not everyone can picture things in their head. Just like I can't articulate things sometimes. Like I'd rather just show people. So that's like ultimately something that has been holding me back too, is the last episode, I had so many things I referenced. And in fact, I got better at writing them down and prepping before like I record, of like what clips correlate with the stickies, like what inspired this sticky note. Okay, like that Call Her Daddy podcast with Hilary Duff. And I would clip it before, and I have them all clipped, but I had an instant with like playing catch up and like backlogging my Instagram posts, because I'm very like detail oriented, and like chronological is something that's really important to me, like chronological order of things. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna like backlog, even though this is a new concept, I'm gonna backlog the second episode I recorded. So like the third one was the latest. I think it's let's see, I think it's episode 7 was the last one I recorded. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do episode 6. And I'm not kidding you, I spent half a day making that post. And it wasn't just compiling everything, it was freaking Instagram. And I would make this huge long, like tagging all the accounts. So if people wanted to like check them out further, like they could see what I was referencing and like the captions. And I was just getting so frustrated because Instagram, I'd save it as a draft and I'd be like, hey, I can work on it later. Like again, like, okay, what's priority? Okay, I'm gonna work and then I'll work on it later. It would freaking delete my caption. And so I'm like, I need to be doing my caption in like a text or like a note or somewhere else that Instagram can't like change it. And then I had a few times where I'd be like logging all the videos and all the photos in like a post. Have you guys ever had this happen where you save it as a draft, then you reopen it, and you go to like put in a new photo and it changes the shape of all of the previous ones and like the cropping and whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it was endless stuff like that. I was just running into like technological issues and I was getting so frustrated. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I can't keep saving it and doing this because I'm wasting so much time. I just need to hunker down and do it. I kid you not, I worked on it probably for like 4 hours. And then I'm like, this is so overwhelming. No one's gonna even look at this, because I wish when I was all said and done, I'm like, I wish I actually would have split this into 2 because it's way too much. And I couldn't do that because I'm like, I'm not gonna lose all this. So I'm like, whatever, post it, okay? So then fast forward to the next episode, I was so scarred from that experience and playing catch up. And obviously I knew it was gonna be more work because I didn't have like that intention of doing that when I had recorded that last episode. So moving forward, I have everything saved. And then there's like one image I keep wanting to take a picture of something at my house. I haven't done it and that's been holding me back. So I just want to, like on this podcast, something I really want to do is give like the back end version and like the stories that go behind things, because I feel like when you follow people that you love and you like are inspired by, or like content creators, you do hear bits and pieces of like how they got started, or what they're like, how difficult things might be. You hear a little bit of it. But then for me at least, when everything's said and done, it looks great. So you don't know how much work went into it. You don't know all the issues they might have gone up against and like the lessons that they learned. And so I want to share that kind of stuff on here, and just be like, give you all the details, like the stuff that people don't really like to talk about. So I'm gonna skip to my next sticky so we can move right along, because I have a few more. And this one is gonna take us on a different turn, because this is a card I pulled when I was recording, and I was feeling like so much frustration and like so much like heightened emotions. And I'm like, calm down. Like no one knows what you're wanting to do. Like this lives inside of you. And so like no one's disappointed. No one is, like people aren't noticing the way that I'm noticing. And not that I'm like externalizing it that way of like, oh my gosh, I need to show up. Oh my gosh, I need to do this. It's more, again, my personality traits of like wanting to do things in a chronological order, wanting to be extremely detailed, just wanting to provide like those visuals that make things even deeper and better. Like I just love deep connection. And I pulled this card and I have reread it multiple times, and it's from an oracle deck. I have referenced this a few times. I actually haven't pulled a card since this card, because I am trying really hard to let things sit and read something and like let it simmer. And so that's actually a sticky note, like a little reminder. And sorry, I cut my nails. They were so outgrown last night I chopped them off and they're so outgrown. They look like these teeny little nubs, but they're actually really long and outgrown and disgusting. I need to get them done. But every time I hold up a sticky note, I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, ooh. So, yeah, they're real cute, but they're not these little nubs. They're just extremely outgrown. But anyways, okay, so letting things simmer. So what I mean by that is I feel like our world is just so quick to move on, to go to the next thing. Like life just goes on. Like even if you're going through something really hard, you still have to show up for work. You still have to show up for your kids. You still have to like shower and you still have to keep going. And I feel like sometimes we forget things that really resonate with us or things that we really want to work on, and we just go forward. And it's like this fog kind of sets in, and then we have to keep kind of reminding ourselves. And that's why, again, I love sticky notes, is I read these like little one-liners and it reminds me of the experience of why I wrote it down and like the trail of why I got there. So the card that I pulled, I'm gonna actually show it to you. I actually have it. So this deck is called 7 Energies. I've always resonated with the number 7. I was born in July and my birthday is 7/17. And this is kind of a fun story. My husband was, his favorite number is 7. And then I think a baseball number of his was 17. And so he has like this blanket, like quilt that his mom made him that has my birthday all over it, 7/17. And it's so cool because I'm like, hey, like you were calling me in. And when we gamble and play roulette and stuff, 7 and 17 are our numbers. And it's kind of fun, little side note. But anyways, I love the colors. I was just like drawn into this one, and it's a very simplistic deck. Some of them are very, very deep and they make you really want to reflect and like journal out. And this is a deeper card for this deck, but overall, like this oracle deck is a little more simplistic when I have like a lot of things going on. So I pulled this card when I was a few weeks ago. After I had done that post, I was just so frustrated, and I was like, again, why I like to pull cards is it pops me outside of my brain and like my internal thoughts, and it helps me think beyond things that I have like the capacity or like the ability to think about because of my experience. It gives me like a different experience I wouldn't pull upon, if that makes sense. Like I wouldn't just spit this out on my own, but pulling a card, it gives me this new direction and this new focus. And if you do it right, and you attune the cards to your body and you attune them to your energy. And the question I was just asking, and like the most common question to ask, was like, what do I need to hear right now? Because I was just all over the place, just like flailing like a fish is what I was feeling. And so this helps give me like something to anchor to. So this is the card I pulled, and I'm gonna read it. So I pulled Seeing Beyond. And so it's kind of fun with these cards too. Like there's so many little details. So like her third eye is activated, like that chakra. And then she like has a star in one eye. Like there's like just so many details you can pull from these. But this is the card. So it says key concepts, vision, the capacity to imagine something, to look beyond the material, beyond the obvious, the realm of the transpersonal, options and possibilities, getting out of your own way and discarding your projected outcomes. And then, so that's kind of like key concepts, a little summary. And then this one goes into detail. And now it says, do you consider things only within the framework of what you already know? Or can you allow yourself to see beyond into the vastness of potential? We are all gifted with the magical ability of imagination. And when we are open to it, we become a conduit for the divine vision greater than our own. There are 2 ways to view the world and co-create with it. One is from a face value perspective. What you see is what you get. The second is allowing your imagination to see beyond what something is right now and move into a place that doesn't yet exist in the material world. In this cosmic playground of possibilities, you see into a future where anything you imagine has the potential to become real. If you use your imagination faithfully and consciously, avoiding the traps of fearful projection and drama, you can connect to a reality you truly want to experience. When you open yourself even further, you're often gifted with a divine vision. As a practice, you can reimagine that vision over and over to strengthen it. As you channel these visions through you, you become a super conduit for the world. Today, know that your vision, what you imagined forming in the invisible, will be delivered into the material world. Don't worry about the timing of things. That is in the hands of the universe. Your job is to continue to imagine. Take a few steps forward, then imagine some more. The universe's job is to make it real. What a fabulous partnership. I read this and so usually when I read, it's like just like a couple little pages. I have a few sentences that stand out to me based off like what I'm going through and why I pulled the card that feel like they just resonate deeper. Or like if I am pulling for someone else, I have the same experience, like based off what I know about them, like the energy I kind of like tap into with them. There's like a few sentences that just stand out more than others. And one of them that just like kind of hit deeper, like all of them, like this whole card is exactly what I needed to hear at the time. And so I like to like put it out and like so I can visually see it. And then I wrote a sticky note for myself of seeing beyond what is, because that was the first thing that stood out to me. Was it's like there's two ways that we view the world and we can co-create with it. And it's like that face value perspective of what you see is what you get. And that's like where I was living at that time, is like everything was just so literal. But then I forget like the whole magical part of everything, like the co-creation part of everything. And then here's my second part that stood out and they tied together. So the second is like seeing beyond what is, right? And like what's possible right now. And it says that it doesn't exist yet in the material world, and in this cosmic playground of possibilities, you see into the future where anything you imagine has a potential to become real. And then the sentence that stood out and like tied together for me was, don't worry about the timing of things. That is in the hands of the universe. And the timeline, I've even said that word a few times in this recording, is that's what I was just like clinging to for some reason, is like this timeline. And again, it's like the whole like driving analogy of what are other people doing? Well, they're recording weekly. Like, am I even doing a podcast? Because I see how other people do podcasts, but like, I just want to like talk freely. I'm not like as organized. I don't want it to be like a business. I don't want to like brand it and promote it and have marketing necessarily. Like this is purely fueled by like me fulfilling my creative. And like, it's for me, like that's what's different about this go round, is that's what it is. It's a creative outlet. It's nothing more than that. And it's a way for me to connect with people. That's it. And so like letting go of the timeline, but then this is key too. It says your job is to continue to imagine, right? But you have to take a few steps forward. And that's, I think, the hardest thing when you start to learn about like manifestation and like co-creating with the universe. And this is where I was stuck for years, is, oh, if it's meant to be, it will be. Like if it's meant to happen, it will just happen. Yes, but you have to take steps forward in order to even be in those situations. Because if you're not continuing to imagine and you like let it go, then you're not activated to recognize the signs and the gifts that are right in front of you. And if you aren't moving forward towards that thing, even if it's incremental and even if it's just like showing up and doing the thing, then opportunities also can't be seen. And so you actually like have to put yourself in front of other people. You have to have conversations. You have to do something. But again, it's like, find what that thing is for you, and don't like look at other people's stories and feel like you have to copy and paste exactly what they do, because you won't get the same result. Like it's back to the last episode where I talk about like connecting the dots backwards. I believe it's Steve Jobs. It's like, you can't like imagine when you're moving forward, but then as soon as you look backwards, yeah, you can connect the dots and you can see exactly how you got where you are. And so this actually leads me to my last sticky note for today. And this is a video I watched by Julian Blanc. I think I'm going to put another video. I reference him last episode as well, but I just really love his content right now. But the sticky note is look for people with your card. And I am hoping to get around to posting the visual that will go with this, but he has a video where he's speaking to a room full of people, and he is essentially like calling out people like, why don't you like yourself? And he's making people process live in front of others, which can help like more quiet, more less outgoing, more introverted people have like, it's like dual healing is what you call it, where like you watch someone go through something, and if you resonate with it or you apply your situation, like it can heal you as well. And so I believe that's what he's doing. He's really just funky and fun and cool, and you can tell he's like really gone through it himself. And he gives this example about how when we are born, we're all given a card. And he says like, he pulls out a random like card from like a deck, like a 3 of hearts, for instance. And he's like, so it's your job throughout your life to go find other people that also have a 3 of hearts. But like when we go through high school, when we go through like all these situations that form us as an adult, we feel like we have to conform to be other people. And if they don't have a card that matches ours, we sometimes like shove ourselves in a box to match that person, to be what we think we need to be. Again, probably because we're living in like that world of comparison or trying to find who we are and we don't know yet. So we like cling to someone or something. And I just thought it was so cool because it's like, find someone with your card. But if you're going to find people, you have to put yourself out there. You have to talk to more people. And I was just thinking about like when it comes to relationships, like when you're in a long-term relationship that you know isn't your end all and you know it's not where you want to go. Like I've had a few of those where you know in the back of your head, like this isn't it. But then you like change things about yourself and you conform to what you think they want. And then next thing you know, your identity is becoming like that, what they want you to be is becoming a part of your identity. It's not even true to you anymore. And it gets so deep and dark and hard. And then when you find someone, like when I found my husband, I want to say my Mitch, when I found Mitch, like that moment happened of like, holy shit, you have my card. Like we match, like we go together, like you get me, like we are different, but like our values are so similar that it just like, it makes sense and it works. And it made all the previous experiences like almost like they were nothing compared to my relationship with him. Like I didn't even know that it was possible to feel and be the way I wanted to feel and be with someone, instead of like trying to be and do whatever the other person wanted, which is so freaking confusing. And then I actually sent it to my best friend because I'm like, this is why we're best friends. Is like we again are so different, but our values are so similar. We care so deeply about similar things. And I was just like, this is why we've been friends as long as we have, and why we consistently stay in touch is because you have my card. And I'm like, I've just never heard it put in a way that like makes sense to me. And then it also made like some of our other friendships and like mutual friends and stuff. I'm like, I want to be close with some of these people, and I love them, and I can still care about them and like have interactions with them, but like I wouldn't say they hold my card, because again, I feel like I have to morph or become someone else in order to kind of be what they're looking for, instead of just like purely showing up however I want to show up. So yeah, I just loved that one. And so I am going to catch up hopefully on Instagram, and I'm going to post about the last episode, and hopefully it will just get easier. I'm going to push through it though, because I strongly want those visuals. I want that. But I don't want this thing to become like a job. I don't want it to become a burden. I also want to start clipping these so like people can hear a little bit more about like what the podcast is about. I know it's, people who know me and get me, like it makes so much sense, but like I just ultimately, I want people to feel heard and seen. And I think a lot of content that's consumed, and like a lot of, at least here in Utah where I'm at and from, I feel like it's so easy to see these perfect lives and like these wildly successful people. Like Utah breeds just wildly successful, beautiful humans. And it's, again, you look at it like face value instead of seeing beyond what is. And with technology and like consumerism, or like not consumerism, but like consumption of content, it's so easy to like kind of live in that world and think it's true. And let me try to explain that a little bit better. Like when it comes to movies, for instance, like when you watch a movie, it evokes so much emotion. Like I haven't seen Wuthering Heights, but I've heard this movie is wrecking people. It's kind of like that. Like it almost makes you feel like you lived it. Like, and that's ultimately why content is so engaging, because you can see people, you feel like you're connecting, even though it's through a screen. Like we are constantly craving connection, and I think we get hits of dopamine and things by seeing others, or like feeling like we know a content creator because we follow them so closely, or we follow them from the beginning. Like we feel like we have a friend when we in fact have never even met that person. Well, there's a lot of people local to Utah, so I think it's like even heightened here. We have hyper entrepreneurialism here versus other states and areas, like specifically like the Salt Lake area, which is where I'm from. And yeah, I want people to hear it all and all the ends of it. And like that's ultimately like my purpose, is like just real human conversation, like the back end and not just the fluff of it all. And so I don't think I held this one up, maybe I did, but like working on letting things simmer and just like not needing to, that's what I'm gonna work on with this, is like I'm just gonna let things sit, and I'm gonna try to let go of my timeline and know if I'm just moving forward, that's good enough, and that is doing something, and it doesn't need to be this 0 to 100 that I'm used to and that I have is like a core part of me. So anyways, thanks for sticking around. I would love to hear what stuck with you today. Please think about leaving a comment or a like or a message to just remind me that people are listening, that this stuff is resonating with people. That's just so helpful. So again, thanks so much for being here, and I will be seeing you again soon.